I'd like to outline the most basic ideas of personal finance. There are tomes written on each single line below and a million variations. But since feeling overwhelmed can cause paralysis, I want to assure you that the very basics of solid personal finance are universal. Here they are. Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or soul-centered entrepreneur or wellness practitioner who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hello, beautiful. Last week, I shared with you a little story of personal disaster. I have been having a time. You know how sometimes things come in threes and you just have a bunch of crappy things happen all at one time. Well, that happened to me. My life is good. No need to spare a thought about me here. I'm fine. But my week involved emergency dental surgery, my car being towed and now being broken, our family car needing repairs and being unusable, and then a bear killing 2 of our chickens. So it's just been we just had a little moment. But it prompted me to think about, the financial side of that when emergencies happen. And of course, this is the thing. We don't plan for yucky stuff to happen to us, right? It happens involuntarily and it's always a surprise. But life is like that. So these things are out there and can happen to you. And that is the role of an emergency fund. Last week's episode, I talked to you about the importance of having emergency savings to handle unexpected life events like the ones I just experienced. And I promised you an episode about personal finance order of operations this week. This is a really important concept for you to understand as you are getting your money under control. Maybe you're just starting out, or maybe you're deep in it and you just never got this information. I know that was me. So I want to talk to you about the order of operations, like when you have available money, what's the order that you should put it away and into what in order to protect yourself and have the money you need for your full lifespan. All right. So I'm actually going to read you an article that I wrote a while back. And this article originally appeared in my dear friend and former editor, Patty Johnson's blog called Art F City. And I just want to credit the fact that Patty is the original publisher of my article that I wrote. And I'm going to read you this article. I have actually shared this on the podcast before, but this is that kind of perennial information that never goes bad. And even if you heard me talk about this a year ago, 2 years ago, it's probably a time for you to have an update anyway. You probably will benefit from hearing it again. And maybe last time you were focused on the beginning end, the insurance part, the emergency fund part. And maybe this time you're going to be focused more on the middle or the later parts because you've taken care of some of the earlier parts of this order of operations. And that's great. Pat yourself on the back if that is the case. So here is my article called A Personal Finance Cheat Sheet for the Overwhelmed. Here goes. Money is the most powerful metaphor we have. For many people, it represents their self-worth, their standing, their power, and their security. In many ways, creative people are a little different. We have a life where we choose to value different things than the rest of society. Freedom, both artistic and from societal norms, as well as intellectual independence. Our very existence can be seen as a challenge to capitalism. It's why some people feel threatened by us. Our choice to place a high value on things other than money might call into question their own choices and values. So I understand why many artists and creative people may want to or feel as though they live outside the regular financial system. However, we all must still function within it. I've seen too many artists succumb to their own lack of financial knowledge and security by giving up art altogether, making outsized financial sacrifices like home ownership, children, or a secure retirement, and even becoming destitute. Money can be very emotional. Not knowing how to manage it can make us feel anxious, out of control, overwhelmed, and ashamed. But the flip side is wonderful. Taking some basic steps to control your money is empowering. It can prolong your career, help you meet personal and professional goals, and set your mind at ease. I'd like to outline the most basic ideas of personal finance. There are tomes written on each single line below and a million variations. But since feeling overwhelmed can cause paralysis, I want to assure you that the very basics of solid personal finance are universal. Here they are. Step 1, avoid disaster. A lot of people forget this step, but taking measures to avoid a financial disaster is critical to your well-being. Millions of Americans are just one car accident, illness, or missed day of work away from financial disaster. Here's what you need in place to avoid that. First, health insurance. Here's a stark picture. After Obamacare took effect in 2010, there was a 50% decline in personal bankruptcies. In other words, having health insurance prevents financial disaster. Consider it a priority in your financial life, as well as for your health. Next, life insurance is something you can skip if you're single. But if you're married and you depend on your spouse's income to live, and without question if you have children, you need to have life insurance on yourself, your spouse, or both. Term life insurance is the best and cheapest. The basic idea is that you are insured for only a certain specified term of your life when you really need it, and the coverage and cost fade out as you near financial security in your later years. It's important to note that it assumes you have a healthy financial picture. Emergency fund. Before you do anything else with your money, save up and set aside in a low-risk, accessible account 3 to 6 months of living expenses. This is the cushion that keeps you safe, as in not homeless, in the event of a job loss, a health emergency, or other unexpected life event. Step 2, get out of debt. Ideally, don't get into debt in the first place. But if you have debt, and many of us do, pay it off in the order of interest. This means that generally, you want to pay off high-interest loans like credit cards first and work your way down. Once you get to the debt that has an interest rate of under 8%, it starts to make sense to reprioritize where you put your money. Here's the theory. Historically, investing money in the stock market has an average return of 8% on your money over time. This is the conventional wisdom, and some will disagree. Of course, this varies tremendously from year to year. It's very important in all finance to remember that investing is about trends over the long term. So basically, once your debt is costing you less than 8% a year, the theory goes that you're better off investing money in the stock market than paying it back immediately. What to do with your debt in this 8% range is tricky. I'm not personally a fan of debt at all. The next item to understand is that some of your debt will be at a substantially lower rate, more like 2 to 5%. This debt is significantly below the expected return of investing in the stock market, so for that reason, it's a lower priority to pay off, as long as you are investing money in stocks. Realize that this debt is still costing you money, so it's good to pay off. You just don't need to be as quick as you do with high-interest credit card debt. Steps 3 and 4, save your money, grow your money. Once your high-interest debt is paid off, you can begin funding your future. Most financial experts agree that for the two big-ticket items, your children's college fund and your own retirement, your priority should be retirement first, kids' college second. This may sound counterintuitive, but there are a lot of reasons why it's true. First, you can borrow for college, but you can't borrow for retirement. Second, there are other ways of paying for college, part-time work, scholarships, and loans, but retirement is inflexible. Thirdly, if you don't have financial security, You are risking your children's future financial security if something should happen to you in your golden years. No parent means to burden their child with home health care needs, cancer treatment, or an assisted living facility. But if you haven't saved for these possibilities yourself, your kids are going to be obligated, and probably when they've just bought a house themselves and are paying for the high cost of daycare. I'm not saying don't pay for your child's college education, but the bigger financial burden on your children is to not plan for end-of-life needs, and that should come first. You need to put the oxygen mask on yourself before assisting others. Step 4, the basic principles of investing, growing. It's easy to get overwhelmed at the thought of investing. Some people avoid it altogether because of this. But in my opinion, and for the record, Warren Buffett's, the easiest investing option is also the best one, index funds. So my feeling is start with this, and if you want to do more research and get into more complex investing, go right ahead. Index fund is basically a representative slice of the US stock market or international global stock markets. It's comprised of a proportional piece of each of the stocks represented in a given market, say the S&P 500. It is indexed to that market. When the market goes up or down, the index fund goes up or down. Historically, the markets tend to go up over time, even though there will be down years. But index funds are great for more reasons. Primarily, they're cheaper. There is no manager for an index fund, so none of your money gets eaten by a management fee. There is much less trading in an index fund than in an actively managed fund, so there are fewer taxable transactions. Those factors alone are enough to make index funds better, but there's one important final factor. No one can beat the market. People try, and they win sometimes. But over time, active managers don't come out ahead of the market more than half of the time. In other words, they don't beat basic chance. So given all of that, index funds are the boring, inexpensive, obvious way to go. Vanguard is the best and lowest cost provider of index funds. I have no relationship with Vanguard. I make no money by recommending that. I just say it because they have the lowest fees. Factoring in your timeline. An important consideration in investing to grow your money is your risk tolerance and your timeline. All investing involves the risk of losing your money, but some investments are more likely to incur losses than others. Conventional wisdom says that stocks are riskier in that they fluctuate up and down with events in the economy, but that they have a higher rate of growth over time. Bonds are seen as low risk, but they don't grow as much. In terms of timeline, you generally want your money to be in the stock market for as long as you can, and you want to leave it there. Don't get nervous and sell it all when the market goes down. In fact, generally speaking, a downturn is when you want to buy stock. Buy low, sell high. Sound familiar? But human emotion being what it is, most people do the opposite. They buy high. And here's the quote, "The stock market is booming. I've got to get in on this." And sell low. Here's the quote, "The market has bottomed out. I better sell it all before it goes to zero." So truly, the best investment strategy is to put your money in the market and hang tight for several decades without fretting over the market's swings. The longer your time horizon, the more aggressively, closer to 100% of it, you can have money in the stock market. For shorter horizons, like a down payment, college tuition, impending retirement, you want to mix in more conservative investments like bonds. In general, you want to have the maximum time possible for growth, and as you get closer to needing to use your money, you want to move it over into more stable investments. The stock market goes up and down even though the long-term trend is up. The idea is that if you need the money for grad school next year, you don't want to put it all in the stock market where a sudden drop could cut your money in half. But if you're investing for a retirement that is 40 years away, a drop next year doesn't matter. It might make you feel sick to your stomach, but it will generally recover and grow well again over the long term. There are millions of books on investment strategy, and I'm trying to summarize it in a few lines. So just know that this is just the tip of the iceberg. My hope is that this personal finance cheat sheet will give you a sense of direction and focus. Now, That's my post. That is my piece of writing. If that makes you inspired to take a moment, maybe you've got some extra time this summer and kick your financial life into gear. I made a whole program about this where I teach investing and I teach how to use tax advantaged accounts, which is where you get the absolute top dollar out of your investments because they are subject to less tax than they are in a normal brokerage fund. I also teach you other skills like tax planning and getting all your tax credits, a lot of stuff to save you money and set you up for a great financial future. Plus, of course, my program, Money Bootcamp, includes the stuff you know about, the taxes. It helps you set up bookkeeping systems for tax documents and pay your estimated quarterly taxes on time every quarter. So if you're interested in learning more about Money Bootcamp, you can go straight to the sales page, sunlighttax.com/moneybootcampimpact. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes. I also invite you to watch our class that I made about it, where I talk a little bit more about investing, I show you the math of a compound interest curve, which is what it looks like when you have your money invested inside tax advantaged account in a basic portfolio of index funds. So if you're interested in checking that out, also by signing up for that video and just attending it for just a few moments, you get access to my very best deal on Money Bootcamp. So even if you don't really want to watch the class, you can get the best deal on Bootcamp by signing up for it and clicking in and grabbing the deal that's available, because it involves a free 30-minute one-on-one tax consultation. So if you're interested in that, you can get it at at go.sunlighttax.com/register. That's go.sunlighttax.com/register. And I'll put that link in the show notes as well. So I hope you enjoyed this personal finance cheat sheet today. And I hope you go out and get started on the next step on that cheat sheet for you. Enjoy, everybody. Take care. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.